We're in the middle of Genesis chapter 3. And, you have this, whether I should take the time to do this, what just happened. But you have something like this. We've talked about this before. This is Paul's, they call it the Sermon on Mars Hill. That's what this is typically called. The Areopagus was kind of the forum in the city of Athens. It sits on a rock in Athens, and that was where the leadership of the city held court, so to speak. And so Paul was called before this court. It was not voluntary, almost certainly, to give an account of the things he was teaching in the city of Athens while he was waiting for Timothy and Silas to come back from Philippi or Thessalonica, I can't remember which. And so he finds himself ad hoc, just on the spur of the moment, standing in front of this group, and he's overwhelmed by the idols of the city. And the thing that comes to his mind, if you ask me, the chapter that comes to his mind is Genesis chapter 1. And so that's the starting point and virtually the ending point. The starting point of it is Genesis chapter 1, and the ending point is the resurrection of the one who will become the judge of the living and the dead, whose name is never mentioned in the Sermon on Mars Hill. So there's no gospel in this sermon. There is an appeal to commit yourself to the worship, exclusive worship. You see this strict Jewish monotheism come out strongly and emotionally from Paul in this city. And it begins and almost ends there. There's a kind of the end of it here has a statement, an elusive statement about Jesus, a non-specific statement about Jesus. But this is it. So the God in verse 24, the God who made the world and all things in it, that's how he starts. Therefore, and thereby deprecating and subordinating anything and everything these people worship. Because the one they're not worshiping, the unknown God, they don't even know who he is. They know every God except the creator. So he dismisses, deprecates, obsoletes, lowers, whatever, all the gods they worship except the unknown God who they don't even know. And he's the one that he begins with. The God who made the world and all things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth. Look at the 1 and 2 there. The association of creator and king, creator and sovereign. He is the creator Lord. Lord of heaven and earth, what he created, heaven and earth. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything. The creator is his own self-sufficient person. Since he himself, he's a giver, not a taker. He benefits in nothing from anything we do for him. So therefore, he has no gratitude, no appreciation, has no debts, no obligations. He is the dispenser of grace. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth. We're getting to that now. So that's his statement about Adam. Having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, he is the sovereign over everything that he made, that they would seek God. They exist for the purpose of seeking God. The one whom they call the unknown God they exist, he tells them, for the purpose of seeking him, the God who is unknown to them. If perhaps they might grope for him and find him, because they're worshiping a God that is unknown. So grope, please, try to find. Though he is not far from each one of us, for in him we live and move and exist. As even some of your own poets have said, we also are his offspring. Being then the children of God, we ought not to think that the divine nature, elusive language, non-specific, but we already know he's the creator, is not like not to think that the divine creator is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and thought of man. Think Romans 1. The people who worship such things are worthy of death, the wrath of God. Therefore, having overlooked the times of ignorance, the ignorant being you who worship the unknown God, worship the God you don't even know. Talk about ignorance. God is now declaring to men that all people everywhere repent, because he has fixed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness through a man whom he has appointed. who does not get a name in this passage, having furnished proof to all men by raising him from the dead. So he begins with the Creator, and he ends with the resurrection of the one who will judge the living and the dead. So that's a manifesto by an Orthodox, zealous, Jewish, Pharisaical Jewish Christian, whose entire sense, all his sensibilities have been upset and offended on behalf of God, the Creator God, because of what he has experienced in this place. So he goes before this leadership council, who can pretty much do what they want, and he unloads on them. And there's all kinds of backhanded insults and accusations that are going on in this passage. But I mean, if I was him and I was standing before these people, is this what I would have said? Almost certainly not. I would have preached the gospel that they would have had no common point of reference with. Because remember, none of these people, look at the next sentence. When they listened to everything up to the resurrection. Maybe he would have kept going, but that's where they ended it. When they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some of them began to sneer, and they dismissed him, basically. So they listened to everything up to the point of the resurrection of the dead. So they have no common point. There's no common point of reference with these people on the gospel, because the gospel is just a resurrected king, a resurrected Messiah. And they sneer at the very thought, but the Creator, they did not sneer at. They were interested. That's your common point of reference. And the place that they fall on their own sword. Because, as I think he implies here, Creator is the starting point, the chief premise of all of biblical revelation. It is the single most important belief you have. Period. Who do you believe is the Creator? That's the most important belief that you have, in my opinion. And I think I can defend it from the Bible. We tend to think that it's our belief about Jesus. But remember that when you believe in Jesus, you're believing in a Creator. That's where John began. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things came into being by him, and apart from him, nothing has come into being that has come into being. So it is also the starting point for your belief, at least as far as John is concerned, because he could have started that book any way he wanted, for your beliefs about Jesus. That's how important it is, and it gets forgotten pretty quick. Pretty quick. Chapter 4, the Creator is a long lost memory. It's a distant memory. They have offended their Creator. Adam and Eve have, and so has the serpent, whatever he was. And now, because they have offended their Creator, all of humanity will pay the penalty for it, because they have offended their Creator. And it will not be finished, it will not be fixed until the cross and the resurrection, as Paul says. It's interesting that he begins with the Creator and he ends with the resurrection. The resurrection is the victory, is the reversal of the curse. If the curse is death, the victory is not the crucifixion of Jesus. The victory is the resurrection of Jesus, because in the resurrection, he defeats death itself. That's interesting. Victory in Jesus. Let's look. Now I'm curious about this. I'm making this up as I go along. Look at this song. I'm going to quibble again. I quibbled with the 4 laws last week. Now I'm going to quibble with one of the greats. Let's go with God too. How can you go wrong with a site called God too? Let's see. Victory in Jesus. You saw me. Yeah, interesting. Interesting that there's go with right in a way. I want to make a point. They knew. There's no resurrection in here. Why is there no resurrection in here? Not that there has to be, but I don't know. The resurrection of Jesus reverses the curse. It's God's great achievement. Greatest miracle in the Bible, in my view, is the incarnation. Greatest achievement in the Bible is the resurrection of the Son of God. I'll have to think about that. I'm kind of making this up. Anyway, sure.
It's Phil's last name.
Devaney, Devaney. Hopefully he's not listening right now. Okay. So that's that. Anybody want to quibble with that? Argue? Anybody bored? Not bored? Too bored to answer? Huh? Yeah, whatever I said. I always listen to it before this, so I listened to last week this morning. And I always think that I stumble over words more than I do. And I find that I think I said something, but I actually pulled punches and said something weaker or something not quite. But I remember it as if I said what I really wanted to say. That's the way, and then I'll listen to it and I'll go, oh, I didn't actually say that. I said this. And I think I know why I said that in the moment instead of what I really wanted to say. All right, we're in the middle of the curse. The beginning of the cascade, well, the beginning of the cascade was when their eyes were open at the beginning of the chapter. That begins a cascade, a descent that will not cease until ruin. Chapter 7. And I was thinking about this in what I call the great interrogation. How'd you like to have gotten this interrogation? Yeah, we get the point. Go away. Thank you. These are the 4 questions that God asks in the text. He does that. He does that to Elijah. He asks questions. And I don't know if Jesus did it or not. I'll have to think about it. But, you know, I said when he's looking for Adam and Eve and walking in the cool of the garden, the cool of the day, where are you? Well, then he doesn't answer the question because we were naked, so we hid ourselves. He asks a strange question: who told you you were naked? Because they're the only 2 people. Then he doesn't even wait for an answer. Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? Which he doesn't answer. He answers another question. Then he asks that last question of the serpent. I think it's of the serpent. Isn't it? Where's it at? Oh, he asked it of the woman. Yeah. What is this you have done? Talk about a question that rings through the ages. The implications, I mean, he knows. It's a question of, it's an unanswerable question because you just have to sit there and ponder it silently. Because the implications of what she's done for everyone who ever will live and for the earth and universe itself. Because remember, it's not just the humans who need redemption. The whole created order needs redemption. That's the point of Romans chapter 8. All of creation will be redeemed because all of creation was impacted by the fall, and all of creation is somehow corrupted. And so this question just rings out to a person who cannot possibly understand the implications of what she's done. What is this you have done? Just inviting the reader to ponder the after effects of what she did in a moment, in some kind of impulsive moment.
I had a very interesting conversation with a man at the mission Friday night after I got done preaching. And this man believed, basically his first question was basically, well, don't remember exactly how the word, but it was kind of like God, he basically instilled sin in us, the sinful nature when he created man. And that we were without choice. And he almost sounded like he didn't really believe that we sin, we just make mistakes. And kind of thought about this since we're studying this right now, that. And eventually I was going to go to Romans chapter 5 and verse 12 and kind of say that, man, that first Adam brought sin into the world, but all of a sudden he decided, no, I'm not listening. Well, he didn't listen to me anyways, because he just had his own belief, and that's, was going to change his mind, but it was, I tried to be really serious with him that, man is the one who chose to sin, and not, God did not still sin into it, but he almost like he was perfect and he only made mistakes, but he didn't consider sin. So when I was talking to one of the staff and he went on the mountain, he said the guy has a criminal record as one with his arm. So, but it's amazing that people think about sin.
They think they think what is self-flattering. Generally speaking, most people, we ask them, how do you get to heaven? Or whatever, however you want to say that. You have to be a good person. Yes, why should you be allowed into heaven? Which is, I don't necessarily agree with this approach at all, but most people are going to say, well, I'm a good person. And then, they set the bar low enough that they can jump over it, however low they need to get. And they very often get to, I've never murdered anyone. Okay. If the minimum wasn't good enough, I guess that wouldn't be the minimum, You got one of the commandments, and thou shalt not murder. But it's usually a self-flattering, it's a part of pride. And it is, to a certain extent, it's self-defense.
Basically, it comes down to they don't want to believe in who God is.
No.
They created man, and
it gets to the question of the inevitability of Adam's sin. Was it inevitable that Adam and Eve were going to sin? And my answer is, how should I know? We don't have an alternate universe. I'm not someone who, Alvin Flanagan, who I've talked about in this class, one of the great philosophers of the 20th century, still alive, I think, and world renowned. And he's an advocate of middle knowledge, which is this philosophical belief that God knows every possible universe that could exist, and he chose to instantiate one of them. I think I have this right, to maximize his will. And I think that's called Molinism. But I don't think I believe in I don't believe that possible universes are real. I don't believe that there is such a thing as a possible universe. There is just the reality that God created. We have no idea what else was possible. It turns out if he created this universe, nothing else was possible. Nothing else was possible.
We are finite beings that were made by God, so you can't really know the mind of God.
No, he did what he did. And having willed something into being, tell me what another possibility is. What else he could have done or would have, there's no such thing. He willed this, and it's not like he weighed. That's the fallacy in my view of middle knowledge. The idea that there's an infinite number of possible universes and he chose to instantiate one of them.
I just noticed I misspoke. I think I called it finite beings, but we're gonna have everlasting life. That was-
Yeah, no, we are finite beings. We had a starting point. But at the moment of creation, did he survey all the possible universes and pick one? Why would you think that? He did something that was in the mind of, there's only ever one thing in the mind of God. There was never a number of possibilities that he reasoned through to get to one of them. He has a will. And the will was not up for consideration. And then something decided upon. And then he decided upon something. Right? He has his eternal will. There was always and only this universe. Period. What room therefore for possible universes or other things he might have done? I don't get it. And so this is it. So you can talk it. Then that brings back to my point. That brings up the question about the inevitability of Adam and Eve's sin. Given the universe that he created, yes, in hindsight, it was inevitable that Adam and Eve would sin. And then it became also a certainty. You want to use different language? Let's use that language, certainty. Let's use Enlightenment language, certainty. It was certain, given what happened, it was the only thing that was ever going to happen given the universe that God created. So what Adam and Eve did was certain. There was no possibility otherwise, because this is the universe that he created. So yes, in that sense, it was certain. Does Adam therefore not have free will? It depends on how you, at the moment that Eve ate the fruit, my hunch is the desire to eat that fruit was so overwhelming. It's like it had a trance on her. And she just went. And there was, that's the way it happened. Not, let me think about this. 51% I shouldn't, 50 or 49 I should. I'm going to go with it. Like she's kind of weighing. I don't think that's the way it was. She looked at this fruit. It was desirable to make one wise and a delight to the eyes, and it was good for eating. And it had a magnetic attraction on her. And there was inevitability about her action after that, a certainty about it in some way, given the universe that God created. That's what I think.
Adam and Eve have a choice between believing and obeying God and believing and obeying the deceiver. Or believing the deceiver.
She also had an overwhelming impulse toward the fruit.
She literally also had no other conclusions in her life. It's not like she had practice.
Yeah, this is a first time experience. That's a good point. This is a first time experience for her. She never knew what temptation. We talk about fighting temptation. You can, but it's really unnatural. And if that's all you have, your will, you're going to lose, which is why everybody loses. That's why you need the Spirit, because it's natural and you do what's natural. You don't do what's unnatural. And over time, you're going to do what's natural, which is why he has to work and change things, sanctification and so forth. I wish Tom was here. So that's, I don't have any final answers to this. I certainly don't have enough data to say the kinds of things the guy you're talking about.
Adam basically, he didn't believe that we had a choice. And,
He asked him a question to start with, but he really didn't want to
Right.
hear what Mike had to say. He had some stuff he wanted to say.
Yeah, I've experienced that too.
So, every time I said you have a choice, no, I don't have a choice. I said you have a choice to say, I'm going to accept Christ as Savior, or I'm going to spend eternity in the lake of fire. And no, I don't have a choice in it. He didn't think he had a choice to to accept Christ as Savior, because it's been instilled in them that, you know,
Well, he can still pray to God that God saves him.
so,
I mean, he's talking,
basically, I think, and maybe I'm wrong in my thinking, I think Adam had a choice to take of that fruit or not to take of it. It's basically that's what kind of, what Romans chapter 5 verse 12 was saying, one man, by one man, sin entered in the world. Doesn't say by man and woman, because the fact that
but all you see, as far as the choice thing, I just don't know, I just don't know what to do with it to say someone has a choice. 100 out of 100 times, if you replay the event and everything is just the way that it was, both Eve and Adam eat of the fruit. 100 out of 100 times. That's my point of certainty. I'm a Jonathan Edwards kind of guy. You're going to do what you're going to do. You don't have a liberty of it. 100 out of 100 times that fruit to Eve was going to be so overwhelming in its attractiveness that she's going to reach out for it. 100 out of 100. Not 98 out of 100. And certainly not 50 out of 100. As if sometimes she would and sometimes she wouldn't. No, play it again exactly as it was and come to that snapshot moment that's Edwards' language. The snapshot in the moment, everything is just what it was. Don't change anything. Everything is just what it was. 100 out of 100, she does exactly the same thing. Adam does exactly the same thing. That's the nature of the thing. That's how it is. That's impulse. That's disposition. That's built in somewhere deep down inside, where the will starts. The will doesn't start at the intellect and work its way down as if the will has a triumph over the instinct or impulse or emotions. Quite the other way around. We are driven by impulse and disposition and emotion and so forth that now bubbles out through the will. And the issue of how your will can control your impulses and under what circumstances then becomes the debate. And some people are stronger willed and some people aren't. Some people are more given to their impulses and appetites than others. But all of us fail, every single one, because it's driven. The will is driven by the will is a vehicle. Human will is a vehicle for the appetites and the impulses to be satisfied. That's why your appetites and impulses have to change, or you're going to fail. That's practically getting at it. That's practically what he was saying. So you pray to God for help, because you're right. On your own, you're headed for what Paul was talking about here. The day when God would judge the living and the dead through a man who was resurrected.
What do you think, sin was part of God's plan?
I don't know if you can find it in the
We've talked
Bible.
about this before, because I'm like, if we don't have a sin problem, I don't know if we would know that we need God like we do.
Let's do it by the other way around, rather than trying to reason why God was doing stuff, because humans are terrible at that. We're terrible at trying to figure out why God did what he did or would do. That's why we're terrible at predicting what he will do. Look at the apostles. They never got it right. I mean, I've used the example of Peter and the Gentiles so many times. He didn't figure out that God was planning on bringing in the Gentiles till he's standing on the Roman centurion's door. And he still didn't understand. And it wasn't until the centurion told him about the angel and the angel appearing to him that he went, oh, and that was his aha moment. He never figured it out. But he got the great sheet event when he had the sheet come down 3 times to try to give him a hint. The impulses, the traditional, the habits of thought and so forth, they drive the way a person wills. What did you just ask again? Oh, so do it the other way around. Given that Adam sinned, look at all that it has now happened because Adam has sinned. We have what are the manifold blessings that God has unfolded for us given that cascade of events to where we are now. We have an experience of God that probably Adam was, here we are with the possible worlds, would have had he never sinned, which is not a world that ever existed. So God is now building a people for himself who will know him through Adam's sin. Just as sin entered through one man sin entered into the world, and death through sin, so also the justification of life is for all men, as he says there. We'll argue about all later, but that's the situation for humans.
Well, Adam and Eve had a relationship with God prior to this. There was a space of time, we don't know what it was, that he walked with God in the cool of the day.
Right.
So there was a relationship like that. Then they had the knowledge of good and evil. So now that relationship with God has changed. So there was something prior.
Yeah.
And who told you were naked? They were naked. They didn't have that problem in relationship with God prior. So the knowledge changed the relationship. And now they understand God in a different way.
Right.
To me, we understand more of God.
As a consequence of that.
Yeah.
The manifold revelation of God through Christ. Think about that. What has been revealed about God and who God is.
Relationship than the angels had.
I don't know that we have any texts on that. Their relationship is one of worship and service from what we see in the Bible. They are worshipers and servers of, which we are too. Communion and those kinds of things, I have no idea. But for us, the revelation, ultimately God's, in this universe, God's will reaches its conclusion, destination in the revelation of himself through Jesus Christ. And that happened because of, in a sense, Adam's sin. And that's unbelievable.
Because God knows all things, he knew that Adam would sin, and he knew that Jesus would have to come to save us from our sins.
That was obviously all part of the plan. This is the way the universe, we're back to the question of whether foreknowledge, God's foreknowledge, is his knowing what will happen. Independent of what he's going to do. But that doesn't exist either. Because what will happen depends on what he's going to do. So how can he look forward to see what will happen before deciding what he's going to do based on what will happen? Because once he decides what he's going to do, it changes what will happen. They're all wrapped up together. The universe, the foreknowledge is God's exhaustive knowledge of how the universe will unfold, which includes both his doings and everybody else's doings. So it's a videotape. Foreknowledge is a videotape given that he has at the beginning. It's not a tool, in my opinion, that he uses to determine what he's going to do. Because it couldn't be. Because as soon as he decides he's going to do something, he changes what the future holds. So the videotape becomes false again, invalid. And he does a 10 billion trillion things in the universe all the time. Well, all right. Who am I going to blame all that on?
Sorry, I didn't mean to get something, but
I blame-
it goes along with what we talked about. So,
I blame the guy you were talking to. I blame the guy you were talking to. Okay, let's get on with the curse here. I don't think we got to the woman. Did we get to the woman? I just listened to it. I don't remember. He curses the serpent. Dust you will eat. So we're back to eating. So they're in a garden. Adam's going to be cursed with regard to tilling the ground, but already the serpent is cursed by what he's going to what he's gonna eat, dust, because it's gonna be on his belly. We talked about, the seed. I will put enmity between your seed and hers. He shall bruise you on the head and you shall bruise him on the heel. Then comes her curse, even though the word curse is not used. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you will bring forth children. Yeah, we did talk about this. Yet your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you. We talked about the desire and ruling over problem. Desire having a dark side to it, which is the way I think it's being used here. And I'll put my cards on the table again. I believe then the curse on the woman in this sense is that the unity that you and he you were taken out of Adam and then placed back together in unity. I will tear that asunder, and henceforth you will be at war with each other, man and woman. And that's the great curse on humanity. And then all of the after effects of that on the created order. So that's the curse on the woman.
Look at what we said a couple weeks ago about the seed.
Well, Tom, the most important probably is that Tom brought up Revelation and the woman and what is it, the dragon. We just talked about how I'm perfectly happy to believe that it's a prophecy about that's fulfilled in Christ, but it's extremely shadowy and evasive and non-specific, and it's hard to say anything certainly before the fact. But no New Testament writer directly refers to it like they do other prophecies. No New Testament author quotes Genesis chapter 3, those verses, except 15, that I know of. We have the couple of, Sharon brought up one too. You will crush Satan under your feet or something like that. Which I don't believe those Jewish authors, they take that stuff out of nowhere. They invent that. They get that out of tradition. So it's entirely possible, but it's hard. So let's get on to 17. To Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat from it. He didn't care why. No extenuating circumstances, no mitigations, as lawyers would say. There's just, you did what I told you not to do. And I don't care that you did it through your wife, that you personally weren't, the serpent wasn't talking to you, he was talking to her. I don't care. I'm cursing. I'm using the word curse in regard to you. He didn't use the word curse in regard to the woman. Cursed is the ground because of you. So he doesn't directly curse the man. He curses the ground from which the man will eat and from which the man was taken. In toil you will eat of it all the days of your life, both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So there's your prophecy, there's your decree of death. Whatever was true before, there's your decree of death. And the ultimate lie of pride, that we are somebody. God wouldn't say we're nothing. He would say exactly what he said to Adam here. He didn't say you're nothing. He said you're dust. You're of the same stuff, and you're going back to the stuff. That's what you are.
It also comes down to the fact that God told Adam responsible for that curse that coming into the.
Yep.
Into existence. It's your responsibility to be obedient. And you disobeyed, and so I'm gonna hold you accountable.
Yep.
For this curse coming into the third.
To the third and fourth and 10th.
That's why Adam, Eve, I don't think he cursed Eve, because he didn't hold her responsible. You told Adam total responsibility for sin coming into the world.
You could put it this way. This certainly sounds like a curse on the woman, but through Adam, he curses all generations. So the curse is transmitted, it's genetic. Right? It's a genetic problem you inherit. So he cursed, there's a corporate responsibility. He curses to the third and fourth and 10,000th generation of Adam, however many generations there are. So it's eating, right? So sin was in eating the fruit, karma. You reap what you sow. 3 different times in 16 through 18, God's curse on Adam is expressed in terms of eating. You want to eat the fruit? You wanted that blessing of that fruit? Guess what's going to be the cursing? Eating. So there's a change in the nature of things. Whereas before the natural world was a source of bounty, that was the garden. It is now the arena for a fight for survival. In a sense, the law of the jungle now prevails. Hostility replaces harmony, scarcity replaces plenty, anguish replaces serenity, competition replaces fellowship, death replaces life. God decrees that mankind's existence will be one of struggle, that man will lose in death. That's the curse. Is death even mentioned? Death is never mentioned explicitly in the curse because it doesn't have to be. I don't know if
The death is the dust.
yes. Yeah, it's paraphrased. It's an incredible, we've talked about this. This is what's called a paraphrastic construction, a roundabout way of saying something. Paraphrase in English or something like that, parallel. So to heighten the impact of something, rather than just saying it, the king, John says, the one who sits on the throne, not even wanting to say his name. It's as if you get this image, you don't even want to raise your head to look at the king. He's the one who sits on the throne. And you'll see those kinds of very, very descriptive graphic ways of heightening a point. And this is another one. You are dust. Rather than say you shall die, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. I don't got any more to say about that. We can look at the implications of it across time. All of the New Testament deals in the consequences of this curse. Paul, like Vic implied and some others have, that Paul was very, very in tune with the transmission of the curse. He's got a whole chapter on it. We might as well do it because it's one of the great run-on sentences of all time. Romans chapter 5. Therefore, just as through one man sin entered into the world, and death through sin, there's no Eve here. And so death spread to all men because all sinned. So somehow it's because of Adam's sin, and it's because we all sinned. Because Adam sinned, but we all sinned. For until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law. Forget about that. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam until Moses. And then he starts getting into the free gift. So this transmission line of sin. But the free gift is not like the transgression. For if by the transgression of the one the many died, much more did the grace of God and the gift by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abound to the many. The gift is not like that which came through the one who sinned. For on the one hand, the judgment arose from one transgression, resulting in condemnation. There's a new word he applied to it there, which is not used in Genesis 3. But on the other hand, the free gift arose from many transgressions, resulting in justification. For if by the transgression of the one, death reigned through the one, the rule of death, the supremacy of death, and sin and slavery, the old man, Adam, we've talked about all this when we're doing Romans. Much more those who receive the abundance of grace and the gift of righteousness will reign in life through the one Jesus Christ. So, Adam brought death, and Jesus Christ reverses it, and he brings life through his own life, the resurrection of the dead. The victory in Jesus is Jesus resurrected, is the resurrected Son of God. And that life is now life eternal. Whatever Adam was going to experience, go ahead and speculate. If had he not sinned in that possible world that I don't believe ever existed, where Adam might not have sinned, and then something would have happened down that, sure. We don't get that. What we get is what he did in the universe that unfolded after it. What's done is done. That's it.
Everything that's happening in our lives today, in our own lives and all around us, it needs to be thought of in that context.
You look around this world and it sure does align. It sure does align. When you see statistics on a marriage and so forth, and it's not like it just suddenly people started getting divorced. I mean, look at the Romans, the Roman Empire, polygamy, all of that mess. Augustus handing out his daughter to whoever came next so that he could have an heir, so that he could get an heir. He was the first Roman emperor. Julia was her name until she finally got so sick and tired of it that she just went off on her own and did whatever she wanted just to embarrass him. Caligula and his sisters, all the way on down, it's just total mayhem. And you can look at it and go, man, that's just not natural. Well, no, actually, that is very, very natural. That's the curse in action. Look at the world we live in today. Look at the state of marriage. What do we have to do? Some people want to have laws passed or amendments passed, defining marriage as between one man and one woman. That's how bad it's gotten. We have to have a constitutional amendment to define marriage as between a man and a woman. Because at this point, it's just mayhem. It's moral chaos.
I find the emphasis that you had on what God did needs to be very helpful. I think that's something we really need to let people know, because it's just not natural to be thinking about what God did and what he did.
Our starting point is always in our speculation, in our reasonings about God, is what God did and what he said. And you get beyond that, and boy, oh boy, you get what this guy was talking to Mike about, just go any different direction. But you got to maintain an anchor when you're thinking about God, and the anchor is what he did and said, and you have a record of that.
It's really easy to get sidetracked.
When we blame, and we blame the sidetracker. It's really easy to get sidetracked because we're naturally sidetracked. Look at Eve. There's like taking candy from a baby for that serpent. He was just going, I got this one. He doesn't stand a chance. And then he went and did what he did. And it was like taking candy from a baby. Yeah. Naturally such shiny thing, and like that there. Only the shiny thing in this case was a piece of fruit on a forbidden tree. It's a shiny thing. Satan, look how shiny that is. He just goes. And then Adam, I don't know, maybe she's the shiny thing for Adam. So I don't have any idea, but that's human nature. Imagine what this looks like from God's perspective as he looks down on this. Angels, look at the angels looking at this. These, talk about sheep without a shepherd, without a context from the way Jesus was using it. They are like sheep without a shepherd. You can go back to the way sheep are. He didn't pick those analogies out of nowhere. Sheep will walk themselves off a cliff for a shiny thing, a sheep's shiny thing, whatever that is. I've got sorry, go ahead. Yeah. I'll close with this. Speaking of shiny things, I found out that I got mice in my basement. And so, it's like a week ago or something like that. So I went and bought a bunch of traps, 8 of them, just little mouse traps. And I looked up the bucket trap and everything on the internet. And I was like, well, I want to make sure that I still have them. Because like an idiot, I'm thinking, I haven't seen any. Right. So I put out 3 yesterday in the basement, got 3, or 2, got 2 right away. Woke up this morning, so I put more traps out. Got 3 more. So now I got 5. Why? I'll tell you why. Because in spite of that dangerous thing, that's a lethal weapon, that's certain death, that peanut butter and those pumpkin seeds are a shiny thing that a mouse cannot resist. Like, one of them was right next to him and got snapped. And he could be laying right there, and this mouse is gonna see the same thing and walk right straight at it, and he's going right for it as many times. So I was wondering, are they stupid enough to just keep doing this, even though they see their buddies disappearing? And I think they are. So I've got 3 more out right now, and I expect to get home, I have 3 more. I thought maybe I only got 1 mouse in my base. No, you never have only 1 mouse, you know? So so far I'm up to 5. And we'll see where it ends, and I'll be putting them out until I get no more. Anyway, humans love shiny things. We make fun of other people who like shiny things, but you have your shiny things. Everybody does. Dogs is exhaust manifolds and mufflers and spark plugs. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and shut down. Enough of this. Obsess about my mice. Naomi, thanks. Somebody else joined. Who joined? Oh yeah, Sue did. So thanks, Naomi.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. See ya.